I think my philosophy is a very liberating philosophy, and it really is, to a large degree, a philosophy of liberation. It's been chosen due to a much older sense of myself of believing in personal liberty and wanting to maximize that. Maybe you would even call it an American sensibility about such things. And there's really a lot of liberating aspects to my philosophy. Just for example, the reliance on practical demonstration, frees up the possibility of using any kind of cognition you want to come up with theories, because there's always a way to test them. They don't just have to be judged like on a logical source. That you can even misapprehend what's motivating you and what principles you're really operating on. And if you get a theory that you can test and prove, then you will still get knowledge. So there's some liberation in that. I think one of the most esoteric or sublime and ironic truths that I have found in this relates to the relationship between freedom and limitation. And so what I noticed, first of all, is that even as a child, is that a lot of our the dichotomies that we use, they're set up as though the two ends of the dichotomy are opposites. Never the twain shall meet. Good is the opposite of evil. It either is good or it is evil, and so these ideas are somehow separated. But really, they are joined. There is no good without evil, no evil without good. They're like metaphorically like the poles of a magnet. You have north as the opposite of the south, but they actually need each other in order to exist. And you don't have a magnet with just one pole. Now, a lot of scientists think they might find a monopole, but magnetism, as far as we know, we've experienced, makes a good metaphor for this, that you really, that one kind of charge, positive charge, is really with reference to negative charge, and they depend on each other, and there's a unity there in the concept. So a real-world example would be the connection and separation. Those are set up as two opposite things. In reality, if you have two objects, they are separated by the air in between them, and they're connected by the air in between them. And it's really those two concepts are just different perspectives on that volume of air between them. One of those perspectives emphasizing the differences that volume of air being between them conveys, differences in spatial location, etc. And the connection being an emphasis on how that volume is connecting them. And I found a similar thing for freedom and limitation, which I draw from the philosophy of art. I noticed that to create a work of art, the artist chooses limitations. They choose a medium, they choose the types of paint, whether it's oil or acrylic or watercolor or some other kind of pencil, something that isn't paint. And they choose a color palette. And even if they say, well, I'm going to use all the colors I've got, well, even that is a limitation, right? Because they're saying that they're not going to just use one or two, but they're going to use a lot. And it is within the realm of those limitations, chosen early on by the artist, or perhaps, a limitation the artist receives, like in an ancient culture where they only really knew one way of making markings. So, but at any rate, the acceptance of those limitations creates the field in which creativity occurs. It is the limitation which gives the playground for creativity. It is the south end of the magnet that, with reference to which you create something. It's like you have a blank canvas, and the paints, while still on your palette, those are the paints being there as part of potential. Those are the blank canvas, and those are the limitations as well. And with reference to that, is how you get the image, which is the positive side of this. So taking this back to a philosophy of life, creativity is a metaphor for freedom. So when I was younger, like many of the people that in Mendham would call phantasmagorical, I had an urge to see if we could overcome the material world, and indeed just to do this mentally, or to somehow see that we were in some world beyond the material world. And this is because that implied, the sense of freedom. Imagine the freedom if you're Neo and you find out that you're Neo and you can, you have all of these extra powers. Well, that's an expansion of your freedom, theoretically. But I no longer think so. I now think that that to be free in the material world means understanding the limitations of the material world. Because see, in the artistic example, the artist has a lot of knowledge of what those limitations are and can be. And in the real life example, the issue is that we don't really know the limitations. We misapprehend the limitations. And we sometimes think there's certain limitations, and we have to realize, oh wait, there's limitations to our limitations, and we step back still further. So to me, as an artist of life, the point is to find out what is my palette that I'm working with, and to accept that. To not accept that and go beyond, it feels sometimes like it's going for a greater freedom, but really it's going for a lesser freedom. By accepting the limitations of material reality, that creates the environment in which I can be free, in which I can be creative. This is the canvas, and what I need to understand in order to be an artist of life is the shape of that canvas, and so that's what I try to do.